Over 60 million Americans are caring for somebody else. 20 million Americans are caring for an older relative and for a younger relative, and that's called the sandwich generation. Maybe you yourself are a caregiver, and maybe you are struggling with caregiving. Margaret, what words of advice do you have for people that are in that position of being a caregiver?
I am passionate about this topic, as you well know. And here's another stat for you. There has been a 45% increase in caregivers since 2015.
Wow.
Skyrocketed.
Well, and it's going to go up, right?
And it's going to continue.
Because the boomers are aging. The youngest boomer is 62.
Yeah, so we need to be talking about this. A big thing for me is, okay, when you're caring for someone, there is a lot of having to put your own needs off to the side, right? And this creates kind of barriers to your own self-care. And one of the things that I really like to do is work with someone to kind of figure out, okay, what are your barriers to self-care? So is it time, you know? Is it that maybe you feel guilty about taking space for yourself? Like, I ran into a woman, I was at the swimming pool trying to get my own self-care in, and I ran into this woman and I was talking to her and she was just casually chatting and she said, you know, I've gained 45 pounds. And I said, well, how did that happen? What was going on, you know? And she said, well, I have 3 kids and I have 2 uncles, both of whose wives have died, and I'm taking care of them, checking in on them all the time. And she said, I think I've actually just lost contact with myself. Now, that is something that most long-term caregivers will identify with, this kind of losing contact with yourself. And it happens before you even realize it, you know, and the key is, can we stop that before it happens, if that makes any sense?
Well, how do you stop that before it happens?
Well, one of the things is, I think sometimes what goes on for people is you think, oh, you know, I should go for that walk. I don't feel like it. And sometimes this is what goes on with burnout. I should go to the bookstore. I really want to get a book. I want to just browse. But actually, I've got a list of 20 things that need to get done. So you kind of get into that almost compulsive caregiving, right? Where there's no room for yourself. And they can almost get anxious about taking space for themselves, or they can feel guilty about taking space for themselves because, you know, look at this person I'm caring for. They have so many health problems, you know. I don't need a book today.
Does it feel like it's like tunnel vision?
Absolutely, like it's a track they can't get off of, like compulsive caregiving. Yeah. And the thing about it is, it's a tricky one to get people off of because the needs are there. They're not wrong. You know, they're picking up on those needs. But sometimes you got to help them kind of pull back. And that's a tricky thing to do. There's a whole bunch of research on this. Like, it's called the recovery paradox, where what we know is the more you need space for yourself, the more you need space to recover from your caregiving, the less likely you are to take it.
Oh, seriously? Wow,
absolutely.
That's a stat. And I think one of the roles that we can claim, especially if you are related to a caregiver or are friends with one, whatever, is almost like forcing the issue. Like I see with my wife, we've got 3 kids that are 5 and under, and they're all boys, so it's a wild house. Wow. And they're like, I think that role of just being able to just not force, but make a setting in which it's like you really need to go take that yoga class. Even though you don't want to, I promise I'll try to do the dishes or something while you're gone. If that's not coming though from a friend or from a family, where is that coming from, or where ought to it come from for people that are
Well, hopefully
caregivers?
It's going to come from a family member or a friend. I mean, we'd call that nudging. You know, you're nudging them towards
That's
it.
the right word.
As I say to them, you know, they go and they take the care that they need, and they're like, I just can't feel it. I'm sitting there and I'm trying, but I'm not getting any gratification.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, do it anyways. And you continue to do it anyways until you feel an appetite from it, right? But I think societally, we need to be taking better care of our caregivers and nudging them in the direction of self-care, you know?
How about celebrating it too?
Oh.
Yeah. I remember I was at a conference and there was a woman who was, she was talking about caregiving. She was a freaking pistol. I mean, her energy was through the roof. And one of her big things was just like, we have to stop with the, like, I care for my mom. She has Alzheimer's. Oh, I'm so sorry. She's like, no, I think she may have thrown some curse words in there too, but we won't for our sensitive viewers. But she was talking about like, no, they're heroes. Like, these are the people that are like underpinning all of society. They're the ones in the nursing homes and hospices and then in the home, helping keep, it's kind of like the duck just placidly on the water, and underneath, those legs are churning.
It's a great point, Jamie. No one's celebrating their sacrifices. No one's celebrating their choice. This is a choice they're making. They want to do a good job. They're doing a heroic job at this, And I think because of that, like, what we see is their self-affirmation, their self-compassion kind of goes down because society's not mirroring it, So the more people are saying, hey, that's amazing, wonderful, which I did say to this woman at the pool. I said, 2 uncles and 3 kids? You're a trooper.
They are not just helping the person, right? They don't see the repercussions. There's a woman that we know from our church out in the Falls Church area. They had not a relative, just a vague family friend that they knew who was getting older, and he stayed in their home. His name was Jim, and he lived there for years, and he just died like probably 2 or 3 months ago. And that entire time, one of their sons didn't have his own room because Jim would have that room. And I think the son was always, obviously, he's a teenager, was hankering for his own room, never had it. Jim dies, and I think he was then hit with this realization of, wow, I actually was giving something that entire time, even though I didn't like see myself as the caregiver, and I miss him. And I actually almost in some ways don't want to have my room back. And I mean, for a 15 or 16-year-old to experience that realization, and I mean, like, what a gift. Absolutely. It wasn't just for Jim. I mean, everyone learns from it. So.
Right, and I mean, this is the interesting thing. So that whole family made a sacrifice, right? And we don't talk about the sacrifice. Do you know what's interesting is that sacrifice means, the origins of the word mean, you give something up in order to gain something bigger or better. It means to make sacred. And that's how we make something sacred. I say, I'm not going to have my room. You tell your son, you don't have your room, but what you're doing is important. You're sacrificing this for something bigger. And that's that child's introduction to things that are sacred.
Well, if you're a caregiver yourself, we have many resources here at Aging with Dignity, agingwithdignity.org, and then here on our YouTube channel, many of which are from Margaret herself, that help you explore and navigate these various aspects of being a caregiver. But we also just want to tell you, thank you. You are amazing. Continue to do what you're doing, and know that there are millions of people like you out there that are supporting our society and supporting the most vulnerable and the people that at this time in their life need love and compassion and companionship more than they need any prescription or doctor's visit. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for watching, and keep on keeping on.